My poor bum! Hey friends, Shayla here. So I am sitting here on my floor because you all know what time it is. It is quarterly book haul time. So with the books, typically what I do is I start with the ones sent to me by publishers, and then I go into everything else. Now this stack is pretty big that I was sent by publishers. I feel so incredibly blessed to work with these publishers, and I am just so lucky. If you guys are curious about like NetGalley arcs that I get sent and things like that, and you'd like to know which ones a small channel like me gets approved for, I would love to do that kind of a video for you. Just let me know in the comments down below. Alright, let's start with the amazing books from my friends over at Forever Romance. As you guys know, if you've been around my channel at all, I read a lot of their titles, and they are so great to continue to work with me. I've been working with them for over a year now, and I really just enjoy their team and what they publish. I have yet to find anything I've rated less than 3 stars through their publishing house. So I'm just really excited. So anyways, let's talk about one of the most recent packages I received from them. So I received Second Chance Cowboy by AJ Pine, as well as her newest release, Hard Living Cowboy. So obviously these two are cowboy romances. I haven't read a cowboy romance by AJ Pine yet, but I am really excited to be digging into one because I've heard really good things about AJ Pine's writing, and I've learned recently that I really dig cowboy romance, so can't hurt, right? Next up, we have a book that I rated 5 stars, and that is Springtime at Hope Cottage. If you want more details about this particular book, I will leave my monthly otaku favorites from February because this is mentioned in there as well. I had intended to film a separate review for it. If you're still interested in that, let me know and I'm happy to film it for you. Next, we have Day of the Dragon by Katie McAllister. This is in her World of Dragons. I don't know exactly what she's calling this series, but there's a trilogy called the Dragon Falls trilogy, and then there's these books that are attached to that world, but not necessarily part of that series, unless they're all called the Dragon Fall series. I'm not 100% sure. But Day of the Dragon was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This contains another story by Celia Kyle. I have not read Celia Kyle's story out of this yet, but I have read Day of the Dragon and absolutely loved it. It's dragon smut, guys. I really like it. Judge me if you want, but dragon smut is kind of a thing I like. Next up is The Cowboy Next Door by R.C. Ryan. This is a cowboy romance that I read and really enjoyed. Was it during Contemporary-a-thon? I think it was during Contemporary-a-thon that I read this one. Whatever vlog I read this one in, I will leave that linked for you so you can get more details specifically about this book, but I did really enjoy it. Next, we have the conclusion to the Bridesmaids Behaving Badly series by Jenny Holiday, and that is Three Little Words. These are books about a group of friends as their bridesmaids for each other and meeting their person, and it's wonderful. This one deals with a lot of deeper things. We're dealing with a model with an eating disorder and some things like that. So they can get heavy, but they're all really good. I highly recommend them. And the smut's pretty classy, so if that's a thing for you, here you go. Next, we have The Way You Love Me by Miranda Liason. This is a small town romance. This is the second book in this particular neighborhood that I've read. There was not a Christmas one. There was a springtime one that came out last year that I ended up getting, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy the cast of characters in this one, and I'm really digging small town romance lately. Don't know why, but I'm digging it and loving it. So definitely check out The Way You Love Me by Miranda Liason. This released in January, and I really enjoyed it when I read it. I gave it at least 4 stars, maybe more. Next, we have The Fearless King by Katie Robert. This is about a strong woman from a oil family in Texas and her relationship with this hunky black man, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I shouldn't call him black. He's a man of color. But either way, he's delicious, and I quite liked him. And yes, this is a really good story. Consent lines are crystal clear, if that's a thing for you. Most of these, the consent lines haven't been blurred. That's a huge like turn off thing for me. That's never okay. So yes, Fearless King, really good. Really liked it. he is strong in his own right. He was kind of a scrappy young man and got there and worked hard on his own. So I loved that they acknowledged his story. They do talk about the racist things that happened to him. Like, it is really well done. I really appreciated this for what it was. So I strongly recommend picking this one up. Next we have When a Duchess Says I Do. This is a spoiler for my March wrap up, but I really enjoyed this historical romance. I read another Grace Burrows story in this same series. I want to say I don't remember what she calls the series, but this is number 2 in that series, and I really, really, really like it because these are about strong women stuck in certain circumstances due to the time period, and it talks about how they fight back against that. It's really cool. I really like them. Strongly recommend. Check out my wrap up for more details on this one. This next one was an interesting one that I was sent. It's something a little bit different. So this is a thriller, a domestic thriller that I was sent by the Grand Central Publishing Group, which is Forever is a branch of Grand Central. And as you can see, I've read like the first 50 pages in it, and I just haven't gotten back to it. I enjoyed the first 50 pages. It didn't spike my anxiety like I thought it would, so I did enjoy it for that. And yes, I will give you more thoughts on this once I've actually read it to completion. I mean, I've read some of it, and the writing's good. So if you like domestic thrillers, consider checking this one out. Along those same lines, we have Gracie's Secret by Jill Childs. This is one that I actually read to completion in the month of March. Again, kind of a domestic suspense, little bit thrillery, more just suspense, which is why I could easily stomach it. And this is about a mom and her daughter, and it's good. I liked it. 3.5, 4-ish stars. I thought the writing was solid. And if you're into that kind of thing, I strongly recommend it. This is one that I was also sent by Grand Central, and I haven't gotten to it yet. This is a historical fiction about 2 Jewish women in love. So this is one that I got sent, and I'm really interested to give it a try. If I end up not liking it, I have several people I would love to send it on to, but I really want to give it a try first. I don't remember requesting this, but I'm guessing I must have because I got it at the same time as Blink. And so, yes, I want to give it a try. I like to branch out in my reading, and I haven't been doing as much of that recently. So the fact that I was able to get this sent to me was great. And if I end up not enjoying this, there are several people I would love to send this on to because it is a female-female romance, and you don't see those often. And the last one sent to me by my friends at Forever Romance was one that they sent me recently, and that is Second Chance Summer by Jill Shalvis. This is a republish, from what I understand, and I believe there's more in this series coming out this year. And this is, again, just kind of a summertime small-town romance, I think. I believe it's 2 people who had history, and one comes back, and it's in Colorado. It looks like it's going to be fun, so I'm really excited about it. The last one sent to me by a publisher was Crazy Cupid Love, and this was sent to me by Amanda Hedger, or Hedger. I'm not sure how you say that. Or Heger. I don't know. Names. But yes, this was sent to me by Source Books for a Instagram promotion, and I ended up really enjoying the read. They say it's Percy Jackson for romance fans. I think that's a bit of a stretch. It does have some Greek mythology elements to it and some Cupid elements, and it's just really fun. Again, this is a couple with history, kids, people who grew up together, and as adults they get reunited, kind of a situation, and he ends up being her Cupid trainer. It's really just fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If that sounds interesting to you at all, I do suggest picking this one up. Okay, so that is everything sent to me by publishers, and that's taken us 10 minutes. So this is going to be fun because I still have like 2 huge stacks plus a little pile next to me. Oh, quarterly book hauls. You take forever, but I would rather do that than monthly hauls. So I'm going to start with the mass market paperbacks and then move on to everything else. So I picked up 2 books in the same series. I read one around Christmas time from this series, and I really liked it. So I picked up 2 more in the Highlander Heirs series. So I picked up The Scots Bride and Laird of the Black Isle. Laird of the Black Isle I gave 3 stars, but The Scots Bride I gave 4 stars. This one has kind of a kidnapping trope, and that's not my favorite, but The Scots Bride was really interesting and really good. And the Highlander elements in the language are really accessible with Paula Quinn, so I strongly suggest picking hers up. Next up, we have another spoiler for my March wrap-up, and that is Hate to Want You by Alicia Rai. I finally got around to picking this up and reading it, and I adored it. I thought it was really fun. Again, couples with history. It's just a trope I like. Yes, I am so glad I finally listened to everybody who's been telling me to read this book because I really enjoyed it. So thank y'all for recommending this one to me over and over and over again because I'm glad I read it. Next we have Any Duchess Will Do by Tessa Dare. I'm slowly collecting her books and her backlog and reading through them, and I always have a good time with Tessa Dare. She always writes sassy historical romances, and I just really enjoy them. So again, I try to go into these fairly blind because usually they're full of tropes and such. So yes, I'm just excited to keep going. Next up we have A Duke by Default by Alyssa Cole. I have not read anything in the Reluctant Royals series yet, but I did get approved for the one coming out in the end of April, so I wanted to get some of these read. I plan on picking up the others digitally, as my bookstores never seem to have them. But I did pick up A Duke by Default in physical copy, and I'm really excited to be digging into this series next month. Next we have Cowboy Bold by Carolyn Brown. Carolyn Brown is another cowboy romance writer that I've learned that I really like. So I've read 2 books from her Longhorn Canyon series now, and now I've picked up this one to read. I really like the Longhorn Canyon series. It's a good time. Smexy things are more fade to black, so if you're not really into reading graphic erotica or anything, these might be a good fit for you. Alright, so that's it for the mass markets. Let's go on to the regular sized hardbacks and paperbacks. So the first one I've got here is The Beast's Hearts by Leif Shallcross. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's been out a little while. I didn't pick it up in hardcover. I picked it up in the Falape paperback. But you guys know me. I love retellings. I'm hoping to get to this soon. I would love to get to it before summertime. For whatever reason, I like Beauty and the Beast retellings in the spring. I don't know. I don't know why, but it just feels like a good springtime. So, yes, The Beast's Heart. Sorry I'm not giving tons of details. There's just so many books, guys. You guys have no idea what I'm staring at over here. Alright, next up I've got 2 books in the same series. I finally picked up the Nevermore series. So we've got Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow, and then we've got Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow. So I don't know if they're calling these the Morrigan Crow books, like the Harry Potter books. I'm not 100% sure, but my friends who read a lot of middle grade rave about these. I've heard nothing but good things, and the only people who haven't liked them just are ones who don't particularly like fantasy. And you guys know I love my fantasy, so I am really excited. I ended up picking these up when Barnes & Noble had them on sale, like half off, so it was totally worth every penny, and I do plan on reading these relatively soon. Next up, we have a book that I picked up on the recommendation of Thomas over at SFF 180, and that is The Ingenious by Darius Hinks. This is a fantasy novel that feels a little bit dystopic, at least when I read the back. There's so much going on. Again, I don't have a good description for this one, so I will link Thomas's video where he talks about it. It's his, I believe it's his fantasy releases that he's anticipating in 2019, where I got this information. So I will leave that link down below for you. If you're not following Thomas, definitely go follow him. He's got a lot of really good information if you read a lot of adult fantasy, so he's definitely one to check out. But yes, I really want to dig into this. It's only like 300 pages, so I don't want to like totally read the back to you because it's a shorter fantasy. Next up we have one that I picked up just recently, and that is Sherwood by Megan Spooner, and this is a Robin Hood retelling written by Megan Spooner, and I've not read anything by Megan Spooner yet, but the idea of a Robin Hood retelling just sounded really fun, and I was thinking maybe we could use it for a Tell It Again book club book. Not 100% sure. I will have to talk to April about it because, you know, she's my partner in crime that way, but yes, Sherwood. Next up we have Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson. This is a true story of a survivor who refused to be silenced. This is kind of a true life story in regards to her novel Speak that's like 20 years old and that deals with rape culture. I believe this is along those same lines. I am really excited to be picking this up because I remember that Speak really moved me. So I'm hoping that the writing this many years later does the same. Next we have When the Sky Fell on Splendor by Emily Henry. After hearing Lala over at Books and Lala recommend this for the Buzzword-a-thon, I was hoping to read it during that week, but I kind of got sucked down a manga hole. Watch my manga haul if you want to know more about that. But I still want to read this. It looks like a good fun time. I hear it's kind of Stranger Things-esque, so I'm really excited to dig into this because it sounds like it's going to be a group of kids encountering something spacey, and it just looks like a good time. So I think it's going to be great. Next up, we have another retelling. Am I on brand or what? Anyways, that is The Cold is in Her Bones by Petronella van Arsdale. Sorry on the name, on the author. But this is a Medusa retelling / inspired story. And again, this is one that was talked about a lot for a while, but I've not heard anybody review it yet, so I'm really interested to read this one soon. If we don't use it for a Tell It Again book club book soon, then I'll probably just see if April wants to buddy read it anyway, because I really think we'll both end up having a lot to say about this one, so I'd be interested to see. Next, we have The Weight of Our Sky by Hannah Alcuff. Alcuff is how I want to say that name. But I believe this is a middle grade based in the 60s, and it's got Chinese and Malaysian reps, so I'm really interested to see how this goes. It looks like a good, short, fun time. I found out about this from Mel over at Mel to the Any. Again, anybody I mentioned in this video is linked down below, and I really trust her recommendations. We seem to have similar taste in books for the most part. There's a few YAs that she really loves that I'm not so sure about, but outside of that, we're pretty spot on our tastes in books. So I am really excited to finally be getting around to this soon. Hey, Mel, maybe we'll buddy read it if you haven't read it yet? Maybe? I've got a couple more retellings here off the top. And the first one is Last of Her Name by Jessica Corey. This is an Anastasia in Space retelling. Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston really let me down, so I am hoping that this one's a little closer to a true retelling. And again, this is always a possibility for the Tell It Again book club. If we haven't read it in the next couple of months, I'm probably going to read it anyway, just because I'm so interested in reading it. Next, we have The Blood Spell by C.J. Redwine. This is part of the Ravenspire series, but they're all companion novels that take place in the same world. So this is a Cinderella-inspired story, and I'm really interested to see how this one goes. I read, I think it's called The Shadow Queen? Yeah, The Shadow Queen's the first book in the Ravenspire series, and I quite liked it. But I've kind of missed the middle two, and then this one came out, and so I might go back and read the other two. I'm not 100% sure yet. Tell me in the comments down below if I need to. Otherwise, I'll probably just dig into this one. All right, the last retelling for this whole book haul stack is going to be 96 Words for Love by Rachel Roy and Ava Dash. This was the Tell It Again book club book for the month of February. If you want to know my spoilery thoughts, I will leave the live show from April's channel where we talked about it. But just know that I'm unhauling this. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Next we have Enchantée by Gita Trellis. French names, guys. I'm usually pretty good with them, but my brain doesn't want to do that tonight. But yes, this is a French-inspired fantasy. I've heard kind of mixed things about it, but I'm so obsessed with Parisian culture that I'll probably love it anyway. So we will see. I hope to get to this soon. I was hoping to get to it in March, but didn't, obviously. Well, not obviously. You haven't seen my wrap-up yet, but I haven't gotten to this one yet. I'm hoping to get to it soon. But I think April's going to be the month of big books for me because Fantasy-a-thon and all sorts of things are going on. But yes, this is one I want to get to soon. Next up we have A Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. I have not read The Crown's Game or Crown's Fate, whatever that series is called, but the description on this one seemed much more interesting to me. This feels a little more traditional fantasy-y, so I think this one's going to be more up my alley. I hope it doesn't fall into too many troublesome tropes, but I've heard really good things about Evelyn Skye's writing, so I am hoping that I enjoy this one. Let's get into some books I've read, shall we? I think I've read almost all of these. I think there's a couple that I haven't started yet, but the rest I've all read. So the first one on the top of this other stack here, well, the light song tries to knock it over. Don't do that right now, baby. Is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars. I get why everybody's loving this. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling where our Belle character has cerebral palsy. Yes, this was so well done. I really liked it. There's some great one-liners in this. I don't know how April's feeling about it, but I absolutely adored it, and I am so excited for the live show. If the live show's done, I will try to have it linked for you. If it's not, then go look for it. Next up, we have The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one by Amanda Lovelace. I got the Target exclusive where it actually has the mermaid tail on it. Now, the princess saves herself in this one I liked. The witch burns in this one I hated. And this one I liked. I think this one's my favorite out of all of her collections in this little trilogy she's done. This one felt empowering. I highlighted quite a bit. I'm not sure you can tell. I kind of just did it lightly on the edge. But I ended up really enjoying most of these poems. So I just really connected with these. I think it would just hit me at the right time in my life. So again, a spoiler for my March wrap-up, I really liked this one. Next we have Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills. This is one that I read during Contemporary-a-thon and gave 3 stars. I was a little disappointed in this one. It has a band element to it, like marching band, and I was in the color guard in my high school, and sorry, I gotta adjust here. So I was in the color guard at my high school. I really enjoyed my experience, and there just wasn't enough of the band elements to this. It was mostly a story about people rather than a story about the experiences they were having. Part of what made Foolish Hearts so wonderful to me was the emphasis on the play practice and all of those kinds of things and the relationships that were happening during all of that. The band elements were really just kind of glossed over, and I was really disappointed. But I think I'll give this another try later to see if my star rating changes on it, because it might have just been an expectations thing. So I'm not unhauling this, but it might get unhauled in the future. We'll see. All right, I have read the next 3, and because they're in the middle of a series, I'm not going to go into details about them, but they are Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, and Queen of Shadows, all by Sarah J. Maas. So I now have the entire series for my shelf in hardback. So I really love this series. You guys know that if you've been around my channel anytime at all. And I'm just really excited to finally have the whole series on my shelf. I'd been waiting for a good deal on getting those 3 middle books, but I kept not finding them for a good deal in hardbacks. But my local used bookstore ended up having them. I was able to use credit and get them half off. It was just glorious. It was a good day. It was a good day at the used bookstore for Shay. Now, these next 2 books were my 2 favorite reads for the month of January. And the first one is The Winter of the Witch by Katherine Arden. This is the conclusion to the Winter Night trilogy by Katherine Arden. I loved this book. I cried so many times in this book. It's not even funny. It wrapped up just right for me. It was still a little bit messy, but that's how I like my fantasy endings. It wasn't overly perfect. And I got a little surprise right at the very end, and that just warmed my heart so much. So, yes, I love the series. Highly recommend if you haven't checked it out. Now we have The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. This is a Parisian-inspired heist story that takes place in the 1800s. So much of this speaks to me. It was so good. Angsty romance to the nines. Like, it's just my thing. I absolutely adored it. Strongly recommend if you have similar taste in books to me, you will most likely really enjoy this. All right, these last 4 I have not read to completion yet. 1 I have started. All right, so we have All the Wandering Light, which is the sequel to Even the Darkest Stars by Heather Fawcett. The first one is a survival story with kind of magical witchy elements, and I really enjoyed it. So this is the sequel. I plan on picking it up very, very soon. Next we have The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. I've read the first chapter of this one. I will be reading this during Fantasy-a-thon in April, and it's got some kind of snarky satire in, like, footnotes. And so I really think it's going to be a fun read. It's just one that's going to take a lot of concentration and a lot of time. And I haven't wanted to devote that time to reading recently. I've been reading lots of manga instead. Easy, quick reads. But I do want to get to this. I do plan on reading it for Fantasy-a-thon, and I'm excited. Also a read for Fantasy-a-thon, spoiler alert for my TBR if you haven't watched it, and that is Crown of Feathers by Nick Paupreto. And all I'm going to say is Phoenix Writers. Fantasy with Phoenix Writers. That's all you need to know. It's going to be amazing. At least I hope. I might have just jinxed myself. Oops. And last but not least on this list, I'm sure you're not surprised, The Wicked King by Holly Black. I'm sure most people in this quarter have hauled this book. If not, they hauled it earlier because they got it as an ARC. But I do plan on reading this again for Fantasy-a-thon. Mel from Mel to the Any has finally convinced me to keep going in this series because of her love for it. And I really am interested to continue. I really liked where the story was headed towards the end of The Cruel Prince, so I'm interested to see how The Wicked King goes. So, alright guys, half an hour later, that is my book haul. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hopefully it's not actually a half an hour long by the time you're watching this. Hopefully I can edit it down enough that you're not having to sit here forever. But that's part of why I do them quarterly, so I can just do it all at once and be done with it. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you're new, please say hi in the comments and tell me what your favorite read for this quarter has been. Thanks guys, talk to you later.